is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
I'm done with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not upset about it because they look vulnerable. I cannot believe this team is 4-0 because they could easily be 1-3. They go on their heels, and I can't believe they have not one but two double-digit victories in games they could have very well lost.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We've got a fun show ahead today. Some fantastic finishes last night in Major League Baseball. Also, would you believe the college football season continues tonight? There's college football season like every single day of the week. We'll preview, of course, the upcoming Thursday game in the NFL. Jacob Kamaker will join us here on NewsWire. Also, from the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Simon Applebaum weighs on the very latest in media, and also Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. So as we get you ready for another week in college football and the NFL, let's get started. But we're going to begin with baseball here on the show today. My favorite topic of all, the New York Yankees. Last night, go down big, come back strong. Aaron Judge, arguably his biggest home run of the season, ties up the game with the Blue Jays at 6. Jazz Chisholm Jr. with the equalizer gives the Yankees a 9-6 victory, and so they stay alive in their best-of-5 series. There are 4 games today in Major League Baseball, all division series, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. We'll preview all of them coming up on the show. But truthfully, the bullpen of the Toronto Blue Jays has been the undoing for them, at least in one game. As you saw there, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got the game started off with a home run, also scored a run diving into home plate. Lots of excitement yesterday, but that shot by Aaron Judge off the foul pole tied the game. Yankees end up closing it out in the end. As you could tell, Aaron Boone very excited to see his team still in this series.
Obviously, awesome. Just the continue to keep your nose down and compete when it's not looking great, and just a lot of really good quality at bats to work our way back into it. Thought some important plays in the field, and the bullpen just piecing it together so well, without, I think without really overtaxing anyone too, which obviously is big going into another game tomorrow.
Aaron, how were you able to keep that ball fair there in that 4th inning, and did you know off the bat that it was going to stay fair?
Felt like I made good contact, and I thought we had a chance. You just never know with the wind if it's going to push a foul, if it's going to keep curving or not. But I guess a couple ghosts out there in Monument Park help kind of keep that fair.
On the flip side, the Blue Jays still do lead this series 2-1. Let's not forget that. Today will be a crucial Game 4. John Schneider, after the game last night, still proud of the team's effort, although the bullpen came up short.
Yeah, I mean, Thought we did a really good job against Carlos. Kind of just didn't really play our game, really, when you look at kind of things as a whole. Just defensively, you give them extra outs and things like that, and they can do that in a hurry, So it's not one thing, it's a couple things, and their bullpen did a really good job, and we just gave them extra outs.
Given how much your bullpen had to do today, do you have pitching plans for tomorrow?
Yeah. Probably let you know tomorrow. You're trying to, again, like I said before the game, you're trying to take chances to win today, and it didn't work out. Everyone's available tomorrow. Everyone's available, just not exactly sure who's going to start yet. Got to talk through that with Pete and the guys, but I think, it's everyone's available tomorrow.
Meanwhile, the Seattle Mariners take a 2-1 lead in their best-of-5 series in the American League Division Series, thanks to home runs from Cal Raleigh and J.P. Crawford. Also a nice offensive game for Randy Arozarena in this one. And so Seattle takes a 2-1 series lead with an opportunity to close this thing out later today in Detroit. The Mariners have used both good pitching performances and some timely hitting, as I mentioned, including Cal Raleigh, who has had an MVP-type season, who tacked on a home run late in this game. Manager Dan Wilson knows there's still a lot of baseball to be played.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot, just a lot of, grind them out at-bats. And when you look at, Josh Naylor and what that at-bat looked like in the second inning, 11 pitches, whatever it was, just grinding out, fouling them off. And that's – you don't see the immediate result, but you do see it later on down the line, and that's what I think happened tonight. I think some really good at-bats up and down the lineup tonight, using the middle of the field. Yes, we hit a couple homers, which is great. Gino getting on the board there with a homer. Cal the opposite way. JP's homer was big to get the run back after we'd given him up. But we also scored, conventionally, quote conventionally, and getting some guys on base, using the middle of the field. Cal going up the middle to get an RBI, Randy going up the middle. JP going the other way. Like, just a lot of great at bats, and that's what it takes. And when these guys do that, that's their more consistent offense.
On the Tigers side of things, they're probably going to have to get more offense to beat Seattle with the Mariners on fire just a tad. Here is AJ Hinch on trying to get the offense going in the postseason.
Yeah, this is the hardest time to hit. I know just when you're facing high-end pitching in October, it's a grind, and obviously their guys are really talented and are exposing a little bit of of the zone control that we talk about all the time, where those who win the strike zone usually win the competition. So not easy, with what Gilbert was throwing up there. What was it? Like, kind of not many fastballs, a lot of sliders and splits, and as we were swinging more and more as the game went on, we had a really hard time putting back-to-back at bats together that were productive. And when that happens, the innings can short or quick, or big at bats end up not going your way, and that's the nature of the competition. It's we got to get back at it tomorrow.
Speaking of tomorrow, that is today, as baseball gets going at 3:08 Eastern. Mariners and Tigers, game 1 of 4 going on today in the division series. Last 4-game slate of the season, by the way. Brewers take on the Cubs at 5:08. It will be Quinn Priester against Jameson Taillon. Cam Schlittler starts for the Yankees to keep things going if they can against the Blue Jays. They'll have some bullpen arms going there. And then Aaron Nola will start the game for Philadelphia at Los Angeles. The Dodgers have a 2-0 lead in the series as they head back home tonight. Philadelphia Eagles are getting ready for their Thursday night game. A very interesting notebook in the injury report is Saquon Barkley is officially questionable for the game this week. How about that? Also, there apparently is some potential rumblings that there's some discontent in their locker room as well with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Saquon Barkley apparently knows all about this, but isn't willing to talk about it.
Yeah, we had a conversation, but I'm not going to speak too much on it. I feel like that conversation is meant to stay between us, but focus was all about the team, and I think it was a good thing.
Jalen, Saquon talked about you and AJ meeting this week, and there was a report that you three met this week. Can you tell us about that meeting and why it happened?
Yeah, That's just us talking about the collective, talking about taking ownership for what we can, and talking about how we move forward as a team so we continue to find ways to win games.
Why the need for a meeting, do you think?
It's really just teammates being teammates.
What was your takeaway in the conclusion of the meeting?
Say that again?
What was your takeaway and conclusion of the meeting?
I don't want to make this about that, right? We got a short week. We got a division opponent coming in here. I enjoyed every second of it, and I'm enjoying every second of every opportunity we have to improve. And so that's what I've always made it about. That's what I'll continue to make it about. It's truly about the collective and what we do and the opportunities we have in front of us. And so everybody in this building just wants to take advantage of that.
Eagles will take on the Giants Thursday night, already out with Malik Neighbors being injured, and now Darius Slayton has a hamstring injury. He's not going to play either on Thursday. The Cardinals have fined Jonathan Gannon, their head coach, for a sideline spat with Amari DiMercato, who fumbled into the end zone on that long run, and Odell Beckham Jr. probably never plays again, but he's been issued a 6-game suspension because he says he's interested in doing so. Jacob Kamaker's up next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
60,000 drunk New Yorkers who were there from 5 in the morning to 7 p.m., who dropped a house mortgage on a ticket to watch the United States team miss every putt that they can possibly miss, and you think someone's not going to get pissed off and curse people out? Wah! The golf fan wasn't civil. Wah!
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
What worries me, for the future, for the rest of this season for the 49ers is Christian McCaffrey, because all these other guys are out. This guy is getting more workload than anybody else in the NFL. The catches, the carries, the blocking, the chip blocks, the protection. He is just being worked over, and I don't think that is, real good for the 49ers.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The Americans got to find answers in these partnerships, and I think they need to look at their who's making these decisions from a stat standpoint.
Well, it's so funny to me, especially coming off of the Walker Cup just a few weeks before, how it just seems like there's this glaring chasm between American partnered match play and American individual, singles match play.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're getting a lot of optimism here, which I don't know about. This isn't a 21-year-old football player, a devastating knee injury that basically blew, the kneecap and also multiple ligaments. But I was like, surgery, awesome, be back for next year. He might be back for next year, but the Tyreek Hill we're used to, Joe, electric on the field where nobody can catch him. People are going to be catching him now, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Good to me, though. Jacob Kamaker is with us from USA Today to get a preview of the upcoming games in the National Football League, as we already turn the page to tomorrow. Let's be honest, that's what the NFL is these days. Jacob, welcome back to the show. Great to have you on. And let's take a look at Thursday night football, where, generally speaking, you never know what you're going to get from a Thursday night game. What do you think we get this week? The Giants are at home getting 7.5 points in a super low total of 41.5. We saw the Giants screech to a halt and come back down big time to earth this past week, turning the ball over 5 times against the Saints. I would imagine if this was a Sunday game, Jacob, the narrative would be the The Eagles are mad after losing last week's game, but it's a short turnaround Thursday.
Yeah, it's always tough when you have the short turnaround, but typically that will benefit the better team. So I think you can clearly say that the Eagles are the better team in this matchup. They have a great roster. They have a lot of talent. And, that Vic Fangio coached defense against a rookie, Jackson Dart, making his third start on a short week, that figures to be a pretty significant hindrance for the Giants. So I think the Eagles have the edge on that side of the ball. The bigger thing is their offense. It just has not come together through 5 weeks yet. They're breaking in yet another new offensive coordinator. It's their fourth in the last 4 years with Kevin Patullo. And things just seem sort of a little bit off there. Saquon Barkley only had 9 touches last game. A.J. Brown has had trouble getting on the same page as Jalen Hurts. And we've seen kind of the meetings of the minds this week between Hurts and Barkley and Brown trying to seemingly get all on the same page. So I think if you're looking at this game from that perspective and you're saying, man, I don't trust the Eagles offense to kind of score and cover the spread, I can understand that, but I think this team just has too much talent on that side of the ball for this to continue to be an issue. They're going to snap out of it at some point. I get that might be hard to do on a short week, but this kind of feels like a spot to be where they've been so frustrated. This may be a get-right game for them. Maybe if they get A.J. Brown going and maybe if Saquon Barkley can play and not have, too many issues with his banged-up knee, maybe they can get the job done and kind of blow out the Giants and put themselves on the right track. So I'm willing to back the Eagles because of that narrative in my head. But again, we haven't seen their offense come together yet. That's been a little bit strange considering how efficient they were en route to a Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, speaking of strange, Thursday Night Football last week, San Francisco beats Los Angeles. Short week playing with no one. Dolphins, best game they played all year, probably against Buffalo. Thursday night's been a little weird, so maybe we'll get a weird one again. By the way, the Eagles have won 7 of the last 8 matchups against the Giants. So in the total amount of meetings, it's been Philadelphia dominating, but they certainly have had their fair share of close games. Speaking of close games, that's what's projected this weekend as the Lions travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, who just lost on Monday Night Football to Jacksonville, total 52.5. Jacob, to me, the Lions have played the very best football of anyone in the NFL since week 1. They look to me like a very strong Super Bowl contender. They'll have their hands full with the Chiefs this week. It's Jared Goff playing outside. That's my only hesitation here to take the points. I think Detroit's a better team than Kansas City.
I think you're right that Detroit's the better team. And since that week 1 clunker against the Packers, they've averaged 40.25 points per game, which is absolutely insane. Their offense is humming. They are really doing well to replace Ben Johnson, who left to coach the Bears during last offseason. So, credit to Dan Campbell for kind of keeping that offense on track this season. But I agree with you that Jared Goff outside in this game concerns me, especially against the Chiefs team that is going to be playing with a level of desperation we haven't really seen them need to have in recent seasons. They're at 2-3. They're facing 4 tough opponents in their next 5 games, including the Lions this week. So they kind of know they have to put their pedal to the metal here. And I think that, if not for Trevor Lawrence's unbelievable stumble score at the end of that game against the Jaguars, the Chiefs might have been able to pull that one out. So I know it can be hard to bounce back off of a short week, but we kind of saw Patrick Mahomes get into more of a rhythm. He's utilizing his receivers. He's kind of carrying that offense. I think he's going to test a banged-up Detroit Lions secondary. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I think the Chiefs find a way to win this one at home, knowing that they need to do that to avoid falling to 2-4 and falling further behind in that AFC West race. So, I don't disagree with you that the Lions are one of the best teams in the league right now, but this just feels like a spot where the Chiefs are going to say, we need to bring our A game, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to figure out how to do that.
Lions, of course, playing great football, but the Chiefs will get them and then get the Raiders and get the Commanders at home after that. So that gives them an opportunity maybe to win both, but at least 1 out of 2. Then it's on to Buffalo, then a bye, and then that showdown with the Broncos in Week 10 will be one to watch. Speaking of the Broncos, they're on the road this week at the Jets. Jacob, I'm at the point here where 2 things can be true. Number 1, never going to lay this amount of points on the road with any team in the NFL. But also, I'm not going to take the Jets, like, ever, until I see something different. They're getting 7, and the game is not even at home. It's in London. But backing the Jets has not been a winning proposition outside of some lucky finishes, especially that game against Tampa Bay, where they made it close but didn't win. 43.5 is the total here. Do you like a spot?
Yeah, I think I'm going to side with the Broncos here just because one of the reasons that the Jets might be appealing is that they have the ability to get those kind of backdoor covers in large spread games because Justin Fields has kind of padded his stats at the end of games a little bit. We kind of see him drive his team down the field when they're losing big to add scores and, make him a fantasy asset for people who play that. But this matchup against the Broncos figures to be really, really tough for Justin Fields. The Broncos have only allowed 15 rushing yards to quarterbacks this year. And, if you look at the players they've played against at the position, it's not like they're facing only statuesque immobile quarterbacks. Last week, they held Jalen Hurts to 3 yards on 2 runs, which is really unheard of for Hurts, who's one of the more mobile quarterbacks in the league. So, I think Fields, a big part of his game is his legs. And if the Broncos take that away and make him try to beat them as a passer, this could get ugly quickly for the Jets. So I'm going to go with the Broncos. They have a great defense. Their offense, has been a little up and down, but they have more talent than the Jets and they can run the ball on them. So I'm expecting a big win for Denver here in London.
Yeah, the division is tight at this point because the Chargers have now fallen back after a couple of losses. So they're certainly right there at 3-2. And there's Denver. And the only team really that seems to be out of it are the Las Vegas Raiders, who I think probably going to make an announcement on a quarterback change, I would guess, this week, but we'll see. All right, Jacob, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. Take care, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Jacob Kamaker from USA Today. Coming up next, college football previews continue. Ohio State, Illinois, Alabama, Missouri, and more. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
I'm done with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not upset about it because they look vulnerable. I cannot believe this team is 4-0 because they could easily be 1-3. They go on their heels, and I can't believe they have not 1 but 2 double-digit victories in games they could have very well lost.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. If you missed our show yesterday, where were you? We were previewing Ohio State, Illinois, Alabama, Missouri, Indiana, Oregon, and hearing from the coaches. Well, here's the good news. We're going to preview those games once more, but we're going to hear from the other side, which are the coaches that we didn't preview yesterday. So it's time now for the SportsGrid sound-off. It's a funny thing about sports. Coaches don't particularly like when people are saying really good things about them. They kind of like to be the underdog, which definitely is not the case for Ohio State because they've dominated every game that they've played in the season, especially on defense. This week may be the biggest test as they travel to take on number 17 Illinois. And Ryan Day, so to speak, is not drinking that Kool-Aid that his team is so fantastic, basically saying you can just cut out all the noise about us being amazing.
Yeah, it's every time I hear somebody say, you guys are doing great or anything like that, like I just feel like we're getting set up. That's just the way that I look at it as a coach, because I just feel like it's our job as coaches and leaders to make sure like guys understand that, we say ignore the noise. You've heard that before. Usually they're talking about adversity. I'm using it right now with our guys because all of a sudden, everyone thinks, you're the number one team in the country and you've done all these things. We haven't done anything yet. We haven't accomplished a thing. And so the only thing that's going to matter is who gets better week in and week out. And it's just easy nowadays because of the media, because of their phones, because of everything that comes with it. You can start reading your press clippings and you can start feeling pretty good about yourself. And then all of a sudden, you get knocked out and you don't realize it. So we cannot let that happen. And the coaches and the leaders and all those guys are determined not to let that happen. But that's because it's not about the score. It's not about the opponent. It's about us and our training and our foundation. And that's got to be the focus. It's the process over the results. And so, but the tricky thing is you got to bring it every week. But these are still 18, 19, 20-year-old men. They're young men, but, they're not pros yet. Although, the world's changing, we have to make sure that they understand that.
Number 8, Alabama travels to take on number 14, Missouri. Yesterday, we heard from Kalen DeBoer, but all the focus for head coach Eli Drinkwitz has got to be on that Alabama offense, as their quarterback Ty Simpson is now in the Heisman Trophy race. He's played fantastic as the Crimson Tide, after losing week 1, has stormed back to now be ranked inside the top 10. Here's a preview with head coach Drinkwitz on that Alabama offense and their surging quarterback.
I think their quarterback, again, is as good, if not better, than what other head coaches have been speaking about him, his ability to make off-scheduled plays, maneuver in the pocket, and be accurate with the football. There's zero doubt he knows how to attack cover 2. He does a really good job at that, and then they're really good in the middle 8. So going to be a tough out on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, obviously, Coach Womack knows defense, knows how to defend us, did an excellent job last year. Multiple schemes, multiple fronts, multiple coverages, disguised pressure, has a really good feel for the game. You can tell he's been a former head coach. Just as a play caller, he understands the style of game that it's going to be and how to take away your best players and how to take away what you want to do. They have elite players at all 3 levels. They force takeaways and protect the ball. They play complementary football this year at a really high level. And then obviously special teams, there's a lot of variety of what they do in their punt scheme and in their return games. They're very sound and create explosives. So
I think right now, the best game of the week is probably Indiana-Oregon, 2 teams inside the top 10 facing off. So let's preview the game with Oregon head coach Dan Lanning.
Well, unbelievable opportunity sitting in front of us here with a top 10 matchup versus a really good team. You watch these guys on tape. They do a lot of things well. I think the first thing that just stands out to you is when you look at special teams and how dominant they've been in special teams and blocking kicks, just what they do, and then how they play to their players' strengths. Their quarterback's playing as good as anybody. Obviously, they're extremely well coached on both sides of the ball. They create a lot of havoc on defense, and ultimately, that's where we're counting on our fans to be part of what makes this environment great. It's an exciting weekend in Eugene. A lot of people coming to town to watch this game because it's a premier game between two really good teams. I'm counting on our fans to have a big impact on that game. Well, it doesn't necessarily affect our prep, right? The excitement's around playing an unbelievable team, but I think you'd be lying if you said it didn't affect our fans and the excitement around this game that it's going to create for them. And our fans have always been unbelievable, but we want everybody in the Big Ten to get to experience that. So Indiana's coming. They're obviously a really talented team, but our fans got a chance to make an impact, and we want to see it and feel it on Saturday.
Great games this weekend, and some of you may be involved in the prediction markets, by the way, with these games. Sam McQuillan will join us next with the latest on the surging discussion on the prediction market business right after the break.
football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
I'm done with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not upset about it because they look vulnerable. I cannot believe this team is 4-0 because they could easily be 1-3. They are on their heels, and I can't believe they have not one but two double-digit victories in games they could have very well lost.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Prediction markets, hot topic of discussion here on this show. We're going to keep it going with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report as he joins us each and every Wednesday here on the program. Also Friday usually as well. Great to have Sam back in the house. He's getting ready for the NBA season, which is coming up as well. NHL season started yesterday, and so more possible options for these prediction markets to jump in on. And another company, by the way, making big news. We're going to get to that in a minute. But first, let's start off. One state, Sam, seems to be taking hold here of the situation, saying we got to figure out a way to either get these companies regulated or stop them entirely. So what's going on here?
Yeah, it's been about a year now of these prediction markets launching what looks a lot like sports.
All right, we'll try to get Sam back on here. It looks like we're having some technical difficulties here on the show. So what we'll do is tell you more about everything that's going on in sports, which of course begins with 4 baseball games today. Before we get to that, let's go to last night. The New York Yankees have made this a series. They did not get swept after all. 9-6 the final as the Yankees beat the Toronto Blue Jays, and they'll play the game 4, which could be a pivotal game today. Obviously, considering the Jays can win and lock it all up, they'll have to do it with a bullpen game. Yankees, very impressive, I would say, comeback, maybe the biggest one of their season, with Aaron Judge tying the game up at 6, and then Jazz Chisholm hitting a home run that ended up giving them the victory. It has been a quiet offensive output for the Yankees thus far in the postseason until last night. Maybe this is what gets them going. Aaron Boone, the manager of the Yankees, very happy with that outcome.
Obviously, awesome. Just the continue to keep your nose down and compete when it's not looking great, and just a lot of really good quality at bats to work our way back into it. Thought some important plays in the field, and the bullpen just piecing it together so well. Without I think without really overtaxing anyone too, which obviously is big going into another game tomorrow.
Aaron, how were you able to keep that ball fair there in that 4th inning? And did you know off the bat that it was going to stay fair?
Felt like I made good contact, and I thought we had a chance. You just never know with the wind if it's going to push a foul, if it's going to keep curving or not. But I guess a couple ghosts out there in Monument Park help kind of keep that fair.
Yankees will play again against the Blue Jays later this evening. Let's bring back Sam. He's back in the house from Legal Sports Report. Sam, you were expanding on the state of Pennsylvania, talking about the prediction markets. Where do things stand as of now?
Yeah, Pennsylvania is urging Congress now to take action against these sports prediction markets, basically saying this is unlicensed sports betting. It's happening in our state. It should be under our purview. Obviously, you had the Supreme Court was the one that ruled states have the ability to oversee sports betting. Pennsylvania now joins a growing number of states, including Michigan, which just last week sent a letter to sports betting operators, essentially telling them, hey, if you do these sports prediction markets, which we see as unlicensed sports betting, it's going to risk your license in the state. They joined Arizona and Ohio as well, who took similar actions notifying them. So what you have.
All right, well, Sam looks really good in that shot, but unfortunately we're not able to use it on the show with him freezing up there a little bit. All right, let's continue on and now go back to the Seattle Mariners here as the Mariners take on the Detroit Tigers once again today. Last night, 8-4 the final. Very big win for Seattle, especially considering they got home runs from J.P. Crawford. A great game from Randy Arozarena and also another home run from Cal Raleigh. A fan actually caught the home run wearing a jersey asking him to hit home run number 61 in his lap. He ended up doing it. And Raleigh met with the fan afterwards, got the ball back, gave him a signed bat. Pretty cool moment. Here's Dan Wilson, the manager of the Mariners, on their output.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot, just a lot of, grind them out at-bats. And when you look at, Josh Naylor and what that at-bat looked like in the second inning, 11 pitches, whatever it was, just grinding out, fouling them off. And that's, you don't see the immediate result, but you do see it later on down the line. And that's what I think happened tonight. I think some really good at-bats up and down the lineup tonight, using the middle of the field. Yes, we hit a couple homers, which is great. Gino getting on the board there with a homer. Cal the opposite way. JP's homer was big to get the run back after we'd given him up. But we also scored, conventionally, quote conventionally, and getting some guys on base, using the middle of the field. Cal going up the middle to get an RBI. Randy going up the middle. I mean, JP going the other way. Like just a lot of great at bats, and that's what it takes. And when these guys do that, that's their more consistent offense.
AJ Hinch, manager of the Tigers, he'll need a win today. Probably more than 4 runs to win the game. Here's Hinch on trying to get the offense clicking in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest time to hit. I mean, I know just when you're facing high-end pitching in October, it's a grind, and obviously their guys are really talented and are exposing a little bit of of the zone control that we talk about all the time, where those who win the strike zone usually win the competition. So not easy, with what Gilbert was throwing up there. What was it, like kind of not many fastballs, a lot of sliders and splits, and as we were swinging more and more as the game went on, we had a really hard time putting back-to-back at-bats together that were productive. And when that happens, the innings can short or quick, or big at-bats end up not going your way. And that's the nature of the competition. It's, we got to get back at it tomorrow.
So in 3 hours from now, it's game 4 between the Bryce Miller-led Mariners and Detroit Tigers, who will have Casey Mize on the mound. There are the 4 games. By the way, the first 2 games you see on the board there, more or less pick 'em. -110 on either side. Mariners and Tigers, and then Quinn Priester, Jamison Taillon, also -110 there. Yankees currently -180 at home against the Toronto Blue Jays, with Cam Schlittler starting for the Yanks, and the Blue Jays going to throw some bullpen arms out there. And also Yoshinobu Yamamoto, -180 for the Dodgers. Phillies will start Aaron Nola, but they said that Ranger Suarez is ready to go in case Nola doesn't do well. Meanwhile, is there some in-clubhouse, in-locker-room fighting going on between the Philadelphia Eagles teammates, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, basically saying they met with A.J. Brown over some of the comments that he's made on social media, although when Barkley met with the media yesterday, he wasn't really exactly thrilled about releasing some of the details of that talk.
Yeah, we had a conversation, but I'm not going to speak too much on it. I feel like that conversation is meant to stay between us. But focus was all about the team, and I think it was a good thing.
Jalen, Saquon talked about you and AJ meeting this week, and there was a report that you three met this week. Can you tell us about that meeting and why it happened?
Yeah, man, it's just us talking about the collective, talking about taking ownership for what we can, and talking about how we move forward as a team so we continue to find ways to win games.
Why the need for a meeting, do you think?
It's really just teammates being teammates.
What was your takeaway in the conclusion of the meeting?
Say that again?
What was your takeaway conclusion of the meeting?
I don't want to make this about that, right? We got a short week. We got a, the division opponent coming in here. I enjoyed every second of it, and I'm enjoying every second of every opportunity we have to improve. And so that's what I've always made it about. That's what I'll continue to make it about. It's truly about the collective and what we do and the opportunities we have in front of us. And so everybody in this building just wants to take advantage of that.
I like the term "the collective." What's that all about? Does every team have the collective going? Do we have the collective going? Oh, it is. Okay. Mike Tomlin coined it. I didn't know that. All right. Here's the Collective SportsGrid app. You can download it for both iOS and Android. Just take out your phone, scan that QR code. For those of you who are going to bet on some baseball today, or maybe some WNBA action tonight, or even NHL or college or pro football, you can track all your bets via the SportsGrid app. Again, available for both iOS and Android. I believe we have Simon Applebaum on deck to go over the latest in media, so we'll have him right after we come back after this break.
This event, people from Amazon and Alexa made it very clear that in addition to Sports Highlight coming up, you will be able to perhaps buy sports tickets to events, buy movie tickets, arrange fantasy football teams, and I think somewhere down the road, maybe not too far down the road, given the NBA on Prime deal, they will allow sports betting on the television set through Alexa Plus.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm done with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not upset about it because they look vulnerable. I cannot believe this team is 4-0 because they could easily be 1-3. They were on their heels, and I can't believe they have not one but two double-digit victories in games they could have very well lost.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The Americans got to find answers in these partnerships, and I think they need to look at who's making these decisions from a stat standpoint.
Well, it's so funny to me, especially coming off of the Walker Cup just a few weeks before, how it just seems like there's this glaring chasm between American partnered match play and American individual, singles match play.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Just before the NFL games went off on Sunday, we got a bizarre story over the weekend, in case you missed it, and a little bit of a disturbing one as well. Former NFL quarterback Mark Sanchez, who now works for the broadcast team at Fox, was involved in an altercation with another individual that led to both of them being in the hospital. Some grisly videos and photos were posted as well, and initially there was some thought that Sanchez was not the aggressor. But according to the district attorney and the folks that are in Indianapolis, he's now being charged with a potential felony. As of now, his future on TV and in broadcasting seems relatively unclear. And also, there's a report that the victim in this case, who alleges he is the victim, is suing Mark Sanchez and Fox Broadcast Company as well. So what do we make of this entire story? Let's check in with our friends at Front Office Sports as they weigh in on the Mark Sanchez incident over the weekend.
Bring in Ben Horney. He is the author of the Asset Class newsletter. So, Ben, where do things stand right now with Mark Sanchez?
Wild weekend for Mark Sanchez. As far as we know, Mark Sanchez is still in the hospital. Let me take you through what happened. So Saturday, there was an incident in early Saturday morning between him and this 69-year-old man. They got into an altercation. Both were severely injured. Sanchez was stabbed. That's why he's in the hospital. The other man had a severe laceration on his face. There's been some gruesome photos circulating online. I would advise people not watch them. And the fallout started happening pretty immediately. The following day, local prosecutors announced a few charges, misdemeanor charges against him. On Sunday, they added a felony charge. Or perhaps it was Monday they added the felony charge. It's all been happening so fast. And then also on Monday, the man sued Sanchez and Fox.
Right? Isn't that what his name is?
Terry Toll is his name. He's a 69-year-old man who was there because his job is to remove grease from kitchens.
Yeah.
So he had his truck parked to do his job, and for some reason, Sanchez didn't like where he was parked. We don't really know how the altercation started.
Yeah, and in that suit, PT has acknowledged in saying that Sanchez, quote, intentionally and unlawfully made harmful and offensive contact, and also in the suit included Fox saying that they should have known that he was unfit as an employee and has a propensity for drinking and or harmful conduct.
Yes.
In this civil lawsuit, what would Fox have to prove to negate the claims of why they decided to sue Fox?
Yeah, so, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? So I think that it would actually be a high bar to prove that Fox did have knowledge that meant they should have not been employing Sanchez at this point. Nothing out there, as far as I know, is public that shows that they should have known. There would need to be some kind of evidence that Sanchez has been acting recklessly, has been getting drunk on the job, anything crazy like that, which, again, we just don't have the evidence for that. So it was definitely interesting that Fox was included. Sanchez being sued makes sense, especially if you saw the photos. Fox being included is...
Well, what's the goal in including Fox in this lawsuit unless the point is to settle?
So that might be it, right? Fox is obviously involved in many lawsuits, not just in sports, across the board all the time. They're a huge company. They have lots of resources, high-powered lawyers. And in a lot of lawsuits, instead of going through the suit, facing fact discovery, emails and texts coming out, having people need to be interviewed. Sometimes these big companies settle. So, I don't have any specific knowledge of that, but I could see that being the reason why the lawyers decided to include Fox.
Well, as you mentioned with those lawsuits, we've seen recently lawsuits from toxic workplace to sexual harassment and battery to failure to pay overtime wages, a number of lawsuits that Fox has been hit with from former employees as they're trying to grow and have partnerships like the one Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
Where does Fox Sports go from here? It feels like every few months we're hearing something else toxic coming out from the network.
Well, there is this pattern, right, of things happening with their personalities. So independently, the Sanchez thing doesn't really seem related to some of the other lawsuits that we've reported about and read about. But at the same time, is there a pattern of behavior? Are there hiring practices, shored up? Are there ways that they could be better looking into individuals who they're going to hire and keeping tabs on things? Maybe. But at the same time, you just don't know it. They could be totally independent of it.
Mark Sanchez's family released a statement, by the way, to the local Fox affiliate reporters who have been killing this story.
They were all over it. They were on the scene
story.
at 1 a.m.
Yeah, they've been doing such an amazing job at this. But anyway, the Sanchez family has said, obviously they're not commenting on all of this, but obviously this is a tumultuous time for the family. Yeah. But let's just say, hypothetically, Mark Sanchez could get 6 years in prison. I mean, what is the chances of that happening?
So with the new felony charge that was added, he faces between 1 and 6 years in prison. So that gives you... it's ultimately up to the judge, right? And it ultimately depends on all kinds of factors for what the sentencing would be. It feels unlikely he would get 6 years in prison, but at the same time, again, you don't know what the facts are going to be as they come out. Again, Mark Sanchez has made a lot of money in his career, so he could potentially settle. The fact that the suit was filed so quickly, and it didn't contain that much detail, it was a pretty quick, 11 or 12 page complaint. It was a lot of kind of generic legal terminology.
And no word on damages.
No word on damages. They just want, an unspecified amount of damages to be determined at trial. So it kind of felt like they wanted to quickly seize on the moment and say, hey, we're not going away. You're going to need to kind of be responsible for what happened.
One significant fine from the National Football League yesterday's Arizona Cardinals, a $100,000 fine for Jonathan Gannon for his altercation with his own teammate, or his own player, Amari DiMercato. Here's Gannon.
I didn't see the video, David, but yeah, I actually I woke up this morning and didn't feel great about it, honestly. And so in the team meeting, I addressed it. I apologized to Omari, apologized to the team. And I just told him I kind of let the moment of what happened get the better of me there. Obviously, like I try to be emotionally stable and calm because my job is to solve problems when during a game and kind of lead the charge on that. So it's not really who I am, who I want to be, and I told the guys that today. So it's a mistake by me, and it's just like everybody in there. Everybody made some type of mistake yesterday, which is, culminates to why we didn't win the game. And we can't let it happen moving forward.
We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. Simon Applebaum will join us from the podcast tomorrow. Will be televised. Don't go away. More NewsWire up next.
This event, people from Amazon and Alexa made it very clear that in addition to Sports Highlight coming up, you will be able to perhaps buy sports tickets to events, buy movie tickets, arrange fantasy football teams, and I think somewhere down the road, maybe not too far down the road, given the NBA on Prime deal, they will allow sports betting on the television set through Alexa Plus.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
I'm done with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not upset about it because they look vulnerable. I cannot believe this team is 4-0 because they could easily be 1-3. They were on their heels, and I can't believe they have not one but two double-digit victories in games they could have very well lost.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The Americans got to find answers in these partnerships, and I think they need to look at their who's making these decisions from a stat standpoint.
Well, it's so funny to me, especially coming off of the Walker Cup just a few weeks before, how it just seems like there's this glaring chasm between American partnered match play and American individual, singles match play.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring in Simon Applebaum for the latest on media developments, and the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Hi, Simon. Thanks for coming on. Short segment with you here today, so let's get right to it. Ad week going on in New York. What's the latest?
Two big developments already this morning. First of all, Craig, Vizio, the smart TV set maker owned by Walmart, is going to launch a racing competition series next February called Saturday Night Lights. It will run on Saturday nights. The first episode will be in February, the night before the Daytona 500. You can catch it on your Vizio smart TV set, or if you have the ONN brand from Walmart, you bought it at a Walmart or Sam's Club, that will also carry the program. Here's the format. 9 competitors all want to be part of NASCAR. They will be doing racing and other challenges, and the winner, when all the points are added up, will get a $1 million contract with NASCAR. Mobile One is the sponsor, but they're going to do more than just sponsor the show. They're going to do factoids. They're going to talk to the contestants, give them opportunities about how to brand themselves, how to become better known to NASCAR owners, more marketable. It's going to be a fun series. The series has already been put together. And again, it will start on Vizio smart TV sets and Walmart brand smart sets the February day before the night before the Daytona 500.
It appears as though, Simon, NBC Sports is becoming a major player once again in sports itself, adding the National Basketball Association and, of course, the rumors of adding a Major League Baseball package as well to go along with the NFL. So it does make sense, although it is a bit of a surprise that we see a network that disappeared several years ago return.
Yep, 4 years ago to be exact, Craig. Yes, NBC Sports Network is coming back. And by the way, you can thank that new YouTube TV contract that NBC just picked up after our last segment a week ago. What's going to happen is the NBC Sports Network is going to be a mix of Peacock events that are either being simulcast or tape delayed, as well as original content. Why? Because they want to establish more for Peacock. They spend billions of dollars on these sports rights for the NBA, for Olympics, and so forth. And with USA Network spinning off along with other NBC cable channels to Versa, they figure, okay, we want a replacement that can go on cable, on satellite, and smart TV sets, and we can maximize the content with the NBA, maximize the content with other sports events, and that's why they're bringing NBC Sports Network back, probably before the end of the year.
Alexa Plus also in news. Could it lead to some sports betting news as well?
Yes, it can. We told you last week about Alexa Plus being deployed on Prime, on Amazon Fire TV sets, and the possibility of the FanDuel. When Prime Video has the NBA coverage starting later this month, FanDuel will have that bet tracking situation. Well, as a matter of fact, they had an Amazon person on one of the opening panels on Monday here at Adweek, and unfortunately, I couldn't ask them about the whole idea of betting. Whether it be sports betting TV set. But the more you talk to people inside at Adweek, the more you're getting a sense of, yes, we're going to see this era of people using television as well as watching TV, and they're going to, at some point, do bets on the television. In fact, FanDuel, I met somebody there from FanDuel at Adweek this morning. I haven't seen DraftKings or BetMGM yet, but we'll see what happens. One of the things to keep in mind with Prime Video, Black Friday is going to be huge. The Skins game, remember the golf tournament where 4 great golfers played, and the number of the money that they had each hole went up and up and up. Well, that is coming back on Prime Video on Black Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be part of a unique Black Friday triple header on Prime Video that Amazon will have. Skins game, followed by an NFL game, and then followed by an NBA game. Nobody's ever done anything like this, and I can tell you that Prime Video and Amazon ad people are all over the place here at Adweek in force to really get advertised to be part of that Black Friday deal.
Finally, Simon, the popularity has certainly dwindled for the X Games, but they're hoping to come back strong in 2026, aren't they?
They do. In fact, the X Games is going to go pro league. They're going to have a winter league. They're going to have a summer league with 2 sports pretty much in each league. I believe there'll be the male or female teams, maybe co-ed teams involved, and that will be starting with the next X Games period this coming February or March. We don't know yet who's going to carry it on television. It could be Roku, which carried the X Games this year. Could still be ESPN or ABC. We'll have to wait and see. But this is maybe the last shot that the X Games have to be relevant here in this area. By the way, one other thing. Unrivaled also had a panel here at Adweek, and they announced that they are going to expand Unrivaled from, I believe, 6 or 8 teams this year for their second year to 14 teams. Philadelphia may become the place where the games originate from. TNT will continue to carry, of course, their bankroll in the league. And Samsung has come aboard as official technology partner.
Great stuff as always, Simon. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
You too, Craig. Take care.
We'll take a quick time out. When we come back next, can the 49ers pull off another upset this week across the country in Tampa Bay? We'll also preview the Cowboys and Panthers and discuss the rest of the NFL slate as Adam Kaufman joins us here on the show. Also, don't forget, you can catch our fantasy football programming all week long. Make sure you catch me and George Kurtz on Fridays and Saturdays, along with Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker on Sunday mornings exclusively here on SportsGrid. We'll be back with Adam Kaufman in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
I'm done with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not upset about it because they look vulnerable. I cannot believe this team is 4-0 because they could easily be 1-3. They were on their heels, and I can't believe they have not one but 2 double-digit victories in games they could have very well lost.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman is with us. Latest landscape in the National Football League as we look ahead to another weekend. Adam, thanks for appearing on the show. Good to catch up with you once again. And let's break down some games here and get your thoughts. Maybe there's an early position to take in the National Football League. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe some people find this point spread a little bit odd. The Bucs are 3-point favorites this week against the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe some folks are wondering why only 3, especially with Brock Purdy still questionable, but I suppose it does lead to more questions than answers, Adam, which is, can San Francisco pull off another upset like they did last week?
I think so. I don't want to say I don't understand why the Bucs are favored at all. I think part of that, and you see it sort of baked into the spread there, is the fact that Tampa Bay is at home, obviously. We used to back in the day say, well, that meant 3 points, and so you're looking at this as a virtual pick'em. Well, I don't know if people still align it quite the same way, but I think these teams are very comparable, and part of the hesitation that a lot of people have in betting this game right now is waiting for his injury designations. We know that whether it was Brock Purdy, who you mentioned, or Ricky Pearsall, or obviously Juwan Jennings, these guys, they all missed last week's game in what was a narrow come-from-behind win, and Mac Jones really, gutting through it, playing through injury, was solid late when he had to be, leaned on his old Patriots teammate Kendrick Bourne, who went for a career day, Christian McCaffrey, Jake Tongas, they were all just instrumental in getting that victory for San Francisco to pull this team to 4-1. And, it's 3-0 at home, on the road, pardon me. I don't think there's going to be any anxiety from Kyle Shanahan's group about going on the road and what could be a relatively hostile Tampa environment. Shanahan historically prepares his teams well for these situations, 9-6 against the spread in 1 p.m. East Coast starts. And I just think you're looking at two teams that are very banged up. You know, McCaffrey is going to be out there for San Francisco, independent of those other guys, who continues to be a weapon. Now, he is facing a very, very good run defense, but even if he is limited on the ground, as he has been, honestly, several times so far this year, we know he's going to be impactful, Craig, as a pass catcher. So he's going to still find a way in totality to get his 100, 110 plus yards, you know, from scrimmage. And on the other side, there's still no Mike Evans. Chris Godwin doesn't look right. Cade Otton is not giving you what he gave you at the end of last year when he kind of became a de facto number one, albeit at tight end, for Baker Mayfield. Emeka Egbuka is incredible. Might be the offensive rookie of the year. He's been amazing, but no Bucky Irving. So you've got Rashad White. It's not a great matchup on the ground for him. So you're going to see if maybe he can catch a couple of passes. To me, I would absolutely take the Niners with the points. I think there's value in it. I would sprinkle the money line as well. I think San Francisco wins this game.
Probably comes right down to the end, like every Bucs game this season. That would be my guess as well.
This is your typical. This is last year's Kansas City team. I'm not saying Tampa Bay is going to the Super Bowl, but this is horseshoe up your butt behavior week after week after week. Tampa Bay is 4-1, could easily be 5-0, could also be 0-5. It's amazing what is happening at the ends of these games.
It's that kind of team. And Mac Jones, by the way, as you mentioned, has been fantastic for them. I mean, I think Mac Jones, as I was watching the game last week, I was thinking to myself, I don't know what he does the rest of the season, but he's getting a 1 year, $10 million from somebody to be a starter on a bad team next year while they wait for the backup. You know, that's what's going to be happening there.
He's good enough to be one of 32.
Yeah, he's gonna start for somebody next year. Okay, worst bet in sports. Laying points with the Cowboys, right? Pretty much. I know it was only a point last week, but this is obviously something I will never do. I will never lay points with Dallas. It is the Rico Dowdle revenge game. After going for 200 last week, the Panthers are catching 3.5 this week. I can understand not wanting to take the Panthers. They're not a really good team, and they were very fortunate to beat the Dolphins last week, but I'm not backing Dallas ever as a favorite. They always let me down. Not doing it.
So it's funny, Craig, these are two teams, especially off of what we saw last week, that I'm trying to figure out how I feel about them, right? I mean, investing in the Cowboys, to your point, is just not, it's a fool's errand. You know, the injuries along the offensive line, there's still no CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott has found a way in spite of some of those injuries, and with a rapport from, you know, with George Pickens, obviously with Javonte Williams, and kind of turning back the clock the way that he has performed this year, even still, I thought the Jets were going to win that game last week. I did. I thought the Jets were the play. One of the dogs that were going to cash in for us. Didn't happen. Wasn't even close. Dallas was never in fear of losing that game for a single second. I think they won it before kickoff even came around. On the other side, I liked the Panthers to win last week against the Dolphins, and they did just that. So another dog, albeit a slight dog, that wound up getting the job done at home. This is a weird Panthers team. It's not good. We know that. It's not a good team, but they have found a way to win both of their home games. So whether this winds up being a team that just gets it done in his own stadium and, you know, goes 0-8, 0-9, whatever the number is on the road, maybe that's how it comes down. I don't know. But, you know, you have, again, a game that is Dallas is a road favorite, you know, just outside of a field goal in some places, which would make me incredibly nervous. Like you said, you know, if you want to back Dallas laying 3 and you got your field goal push protection, fine. I don't think it's how I'd want to spend my money. Do I ultimately kind of think Dallas wins the game? I guess I would lean in that direction. I certainly don't have conviction in it. I think when you feel that way, though, as I've outlined about any game, that is your soul telling you, take the dog with the points. So Panthers plus 3.5 is how I would invest in this one. Just figure it's going to be a close game. And truly, I don't know who wins.
Yeah, I agree. I just, again, can't back Dallas. Don't love Carolina at all, but maybe there's something to build on off that performance last week. Nothing to build on with the Baltimore Ravens. This is a stunning change of events here where the Ravens are almost never, Adam, a home dog, let alone one, let alone two. This line is going to be Rams -5 or 6, I think, by the time this kicks off. I see 3.5 here. It looks wrong. Total 47.5. I mean, what am I missing? Houston just went to Baltimore and destroyed them. And I would make the case the Rams are better. So what's off here? Baltimore going to win this game? I mean, that's the only thing I can think of here.
I'm sorry, I keep stepping on you. It's very wrong. Now, I don't know if this is just a typo on the graphic or I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm seeing 7.5 for the
Okay.
Rams out there right now, with them being favored very comfortably in Baltimore. And like you said, I mean, this has flipped considerably. At one point in time, with a healthy Ravens team, a healthy Lamar Jackson, Baltimore at home was a 5.5-point favorite. This has gone the other way by almost 2 touchdowns. The Rams are heavy favorites by a touchdown plus. I mean, I'm seeing 7.5 across the board right now here for this game. So I think the Rams win this thing going away. I would still take the 7.5. I'd alt it up to 9.5. You know, I'd sprinkle a 13.5 just for fun and see if the Rams win this thing by 2 touchdowns. The Ravens, which is hysterical because they are betting favorites still to win that awful AFC North. But this team, again, will be led by Cooper Rush. There's no Lamar Jackson available to him. They have a litany, I mean, more injuries than we could list on the defensive side of the football, which is part of why every game that Baltimore has played in this year has gone to the over by a wide margin. I mean, this is a team that just cannot find a way to stop a nosebleed. And now that you don't have Lamar Jackson or, you know, good Derrick Henry, because we've got like the corpse of Derrick Henry out there after week 1, and you know, these two, they're not doing anything. And like Cooper Rush, we saw him in Dallas for years. He's not a bad quarterback. Like I would think he'd be a serviceable backup when you have Henry, when you have Andrews, when you have Flowers, when you have Bateman. And yet last week didn't go so well. You know, they got doors blown off, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame Rush. I know he's getting some heat. I don't blame him at all. He was serviceable in Dallas, and he won some games too. But, I mean, what are you asking a guy to do when you're down 30 in the first 5 minutes of a football game? You know, like, I mean, that's pretty much the story there. All right, Adam's going to stick around, and we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back next, we will hit on the NFL awards. We'll see if we can find an MVP on the list here. So stay with us. Also hit on the Offensive Player of the Year. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid, and we'll be right back after these messages. So stay with us here on the grid. Don't go away.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
The course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played, it definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think in a weird way that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? You know, because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're getting a lot of optimism here, which I don't know about. This isn't a 21-year-old football player, a devastating knee injury that basically blew, the kneecap and also multiple ligaments. And I was like, surgery, awesome, be back for next year. He might be back for next year, but the Tyreek Hill we're used to, Joe, electric on the field where nobody can catch him. People are going to be catching him now, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Florida State put up 498 rushing yards on this defense, 8 rushing touchdowns, and they almost averaged 10 yards per carry.
Tough scene.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. It should be 60 to 7.
Yeah. Give me the 7.
I just gave you the 7.
Exactly. And
are you
the
on
extra
this?
Point. I'm thinking field goal and maybe a
but
safety.
But are you on
Joe.
this? This
Over
is your best
3.5.
Okay.
Didn't you read the screen? What, are you not paying attention to the show?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. Adam Kaufman is still with us. We're talking survivor pools and who's left. He's so proud. He's got 1 out of 3 survivor picks left. He's like hedged his way to this point, lost 2 out of 3. He's got one
really funny
entry left.
So I lost 2 of my entries 2 weeks ago in week 4, and I lost them on the Packers in the tie, and I lost them in the Chargers in the Meadowlands against the Giants.
I would have went that one too.
Two spots that I absolutely thought I had in the bag. I was shocked that Packers lost to the Cowboys, and that the Chargers, playing the way they were, couldn't go on the road and beat Jackson Dart, especially after Malik Neighbors went down. But I will say this, Craig, all was kind of forgiven this past week in the Carnage, because I know, like you said, I have 1 left, and I know 2 of the ones that I would have used would have been on the Cardinals against the Titans.
Right, for sure.
Would have been on the Bills probably against the Patriots. So I figure 2 out of 3 would have been dead regardless of what happened 2 weeks ago. So I'm moving forward with my 1 entry. I got to decide what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, after last week, I don't know a lot of people that are left in that, but it's good. I guess they have 1. All right, the NFL MVP odds have not changed significantly at the top, but Baker Mayfield has really jumped into the mix. He's less than 10-1. Also, I do think that Love and Goff are interesting there too. I really loved Love at the beginning of the season, but Adam, as I've told my guests that have come on the show, I think you could make the case the Lions have been the best team in football since week 1. They look unstoppable there. So, Josh Allen, we're just trying to find a name, not Josh Allen, I guess, right?
Well, I guess the question is this. I'm sure you've done it here on NewsWire, and we've all done it in conversation with friends and colleagues. For the first few weeks of the NFL season, it was, boy, you can get Justin Herbert at plus 850. Oh, look at the values coming down. Now it's like plus 680 or whatever the number. Do you still want to invest in Herbert? And everyone, because of, again, the way the Chargers were going, wanted to talk themselves into Justin Herbert. Now we will all notice that board that you flashed on the screen there, Herbert's name is not there because of the way this team has gone over the last couple of weeks and the way that he has played, responsible for some of those losses with all these interceptions, which were never an issue for him last year during the regular season until the playoffs. If you're looking, I don't want Josh Allen. He just won it. I think there's a recency bias argument, and there's no value in the number. I don't want it. The Chiefs, they're a playoff team. They'll be a playoff team despite this 2-3 start. They'll find a way, but Patrick Mahomes' number is crazy. There's zero value in getting him inside of 5-1 for a team that, as we sit here at this moment, is not playing good football. It's going to get better. It's going to get healthier. Rashee Rice is going to return, all of that. They're going to find their footing defensively. They're going to win some of these one-score games that they keep losing. They could have a different record. We saw 11-0 in one-score games last year, 0-3 this year. Some of that stuff is going to find its level to some degree with a team like Kansas City. I think Baker Mayfield, if you're looking for value in the number, is kind of the same conversation we were having about Herbert a couple of weeks ago. I think if you look at Baker Mayfield and you look at all the adversity around that team, all the injuries, whether it's, again, Mike Evans is down, Chris Godwin has been down, now he's back, but he's not himself. Bucky Irving is down. We were talking about it in our game preview in the last segment. There's a lot of Baker Mayfield and the heroics and the last minute drives, multiple, 3 wins now in the final minute, 2 minutes of these games. It's excitement. It gets people talking. There's, people like that he's had this career resurgence in Tampa Bay versus what he had done prior, bouncing around Browns, Panthers, Rams, all of it. I think if you're still getting around 10-1 on Baker Mayfield for a team that is very live to win its division, obviously, and, could ultimately, I haven't looked at the full schedule to see kind of best case scenario, but again, horseshoe up the butt behavior, as I said, if this team goes on to win 11, 12, 13 games here in the regular season, I think there's a very real conversation to be had at that point about Baker Mayfield being the MVP. And I can promise you won't be getting plus 950 on it. So I think that's a good number.
Yeah, better to be lucky than good sometimes, and that's definitely been the case with Tampa Bay. Offensive Player of the Year, it's a strange award. It's usually not a quarterback. It's like the runner-up award. This is kind of the way that I look at it here. Yeah, it really is. So the odds have Puka Nacua, who's been great. Jonathan Taylor, to me, has been the most impactful player that has changed a team this season. And they want to say Daniel Jones. I don't know. To me, it seems like Jonathan Taylor is that guy there. And the reason why I like Bijan Robinson here, Adam, a little bit at 6-1 is on this list. If you look at it, Bijan Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, only player that had a bye week. So, like, I mean, his stats could be a lot more than some of these guys as the week, if you're looking at it, handicapping it right now.
Right, and he will, because all that stuff will even out. I think what you said is very astute. It's very well reflected in that odds board, because generally speaking, I know it's not labeled this way, but honestly it is this way with very rare exception. The MVP, the most valuable player award, is a quarterback award. And the offensive player of the year award is an everybody else award, which is why you're not seeing any QBs on that list. I think what you said is right about Jonathan Taylor. You know, what he has done, it's not like it's just been him. There are a lot of people Daniel Jones, you could mention him in the MVP conversation, the way that the Colts have played, the way that he has played, that offense in general, the lack of punting, all of it, and how they could perform going forward. I think that, you know, it gets into a whole, this was me last year with Lamar Jackson in the MVP conversation. How much of his success gets pulled away by Derrick Henry's? How much of Jonathan Taylor's success gets pulled away by Daniel Jones, by Michael Pittman, all of that? You know, I still could justify it at plus 320 as we were looking at, but I do think, you know, going down the board, JSN for Seattle at 11-1. I think Christian McCaffrey is probably my favorite one on here, though, at 6-1, because if this Niners team just continues, Craig, doing what it's doing, which is finding a way, in spite of all the injuries, both sides of the football, to win these games improbably, especially if Mac Jones has more and more starts in front of him, you know, and I don't know that that'll be the case, but who knows, Brock Purdy could go down again at some point. Unlike last year where McCaffrey was barely available, this year he might be the guy that has to carry this team. And Offensive Player of the Year at 6-1 feels like it has value right now.
All right, Offensive Rookie of the Year real quick. You mentioned Egbuka. He's a big favorite, as he should be. And I don't even want to try to make the case for anybody else because it's very deserving. But if I had to throw a dart, maybe it would be Tyler Warren, because I know Ashton Genty is going to have another huge 200-yard game. I don't know when it's going to be. It could be 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, I think it's Egbuka. If I was to throw a dart, I'd probably look at Jackson Dart, because if this Giants surprise a few people along the way, he doesn't have Malik Neighbors, that could be compelling.
We'll be right back.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
The course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played, it definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? You know, because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're getting a lot of optimism here, which I don't know about. This isn't a 21-year-old football player, a devastating knee injury that basically blew, the kneecap and also multiple ligaments. And I was like, surgery, awesome, be back for next year. He might be back for next year, but the Tyreek Hill we're used to, Joe, electric on the field where nobody can catch him. People are going to be catching him now, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Florida State put up 498 rushing yards on this defense, 8 rushing touchdowns, and they almost averaged 10 yards per carry.
Tough scene.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. It should be 60-7.
Yeah. Give me the 7.
I just gave you the 7.
Exactly. And
are you
the
on
extra
this?
point. I'm thinking field goal and maybe a
but
safety,
are you on
Joe.
this? This is
Over
your best
3.5.
Okay.
Didn't you read the screen? What, are you not paying attention to the show?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. No surprise, the Cincinnati Bengals have named Joe Flacco their starting quarterback one day after trading for him from the Cleveland Browns, and Cincinnati plays Green Bay this week. Flacco beat Green Bay a couple of weeks ago, so maybe that's the reason why they made this trade. I don't know, but Flacco gets his first start with his new team coming up this weekend. All right, we'll end the show with a little Jerry Jones fun. Also, the Skins game, as you may have heard, is headed to Prime Video, and also another story with Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Seems like we do this every day. Time now for some last licks. Don't know if you caught this one over the weekend, but yeah, another Jerry Jones story. So Jerry Jones in the booth, Dallas Cowboys, always going to be, sitting in a box somewhere, travels around the country. He's an owner that is present. He's an owner that talks after the games. And he got his fair share of Jets fans this past week as the Dallas Cowboys took on the New York Jets. What he didn't know that he was going to get was the ability to say hello to Jets fans who were, razzing him a little bit in the stands. And after the Cowboys ended up winning, Jones then flashed a finger at some fans. Now, there is really no discrepancy on which finger he showed, but Jones says that he meant to show another finger. I would show you the finger, Frank, based on this show, but no, I'm not going to do that today with you here on the show. So anyway, so Jerry Jones flashed what we would call the middle finger at fans. He says, no, I didn't do it. It was a mistake. It was an accident. Probably ends up getting fined, which is like nothing for him. But all things considered, I'm not here to bash Jerry Jones this week, folks. The Cowboys are better than what I thought they would be, and they don't have their best player right now in CeeDee Lamb. So, it is what it is, as we say. Jerry Jones makes highlights, he makes stories, and we put him here on the show. All right, the story that we do, it seems like every day here on the program, Bill Belichick's tenure at the University of North Carolina is going as badly as you could have imagined. And if it's not going that bad, it's going worse. They look like a horrendous team. He's in the news for all the wrong reasons. And now here's another one. North Carolina had a documentary that was set to be broadcast on Hulu. And according to this report from Inside Carolina, that documentary has now been scrapped. I would guess the reason why is the team isn't very good. So North Carolina is not moving forward with this in-season documentary that naturally would have aired at some point later in the year. The team announced in August that they would collaborate with Hulu to showcase the team this season, but nobody wants to show a bad team. By the way, it's not unprecedented with Hard Knocks and some other broadcasts to have this happen and just show bad things happening. But, man, the optics for North Carolina and Belichick just have been really bad. The Skins game is coming back, and is coming back to Prime Video. In fact, Black Friday is going to be stacked with NFL games and all kinds of NBA games as well the day after Thanksgiving. And it also will have the Skins game. It will return as Tommy Fleetwood, Keegan Bradley, Justin Thomas, and Xander Schauffele will all square off on Prime Video on Black Friday. It should be a ton of fun. And when you think about Black Friday and you think about shopping, of course, you also think about playing golf. Well, those of you who are not going to be doing it this year, you could just pop on Prime Video and watch the Skins game that has returned officially this year. We have the Division Series in Major League Baseball set to throw out the first pitch in approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes. The first game of the four will be Seattle and Detroit. The Mariners have a 2-1 series lead. They can wrap it all up today in Motown. The Brewers also have a commanding lead on the Chicago Cubs as they head to Wrigley at 5:08 Eastern. It's a pick'em game with Quinn Priester and Jamison Taillon as the starters there. The Blue Jays will have a bunch of bullpen arms throwing today, and they did a good job in Game 1 and Game 2. We'll see what happens today as they have to face off with the youngster Cam Schlittler, who has been fantastic for New York, and New York is minus 180. And then finally tonight, the Philadelphia Phillies season is on the brink, and they have to win tonight in Los Angeles, and they'll start Aaron Nola against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Those are the 4 games tonight. Also a couple of games in college football tonight, as well as the WNBA Finals. So you have plenty of options tonight for those of you who are watching our in-game live programming and our Game Time Decisions programming. If you want to get involved in those shows, they're exclusively live here at SportsGrid, and you can download the SportsGrid app and track all of your bets via the app. You see that QR code? It's available for iOS and Android right now. Thanks again to Jacob Kamaker, Sam McQuillan, Simon Applebaum, and Adam Kaufman. Those were our guests. Thanks to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire. See you then.